Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn, and I am so excited to get to do the interview I got to do today. I am a big fan of this woman. I've listened to her podcast for a long time. Many of you, I'm sure, have listened to her as well. And I'm talking about the Jenna Kutcher. Jenna Kutcher is on the How to Film Weddings podcast today. We talked all about avoiding burnout, how to set time and have margin for yourself, and we talked all about her brand new book, How Are You Really? It's releasing soon, and honestly, such a great conversation to have, really, to talk about the things that you want to do in your life, the things that you really want to accomplish. And this is from somebody that's making multiple seven figures doing the thing that she wanted to do. Writing a book of her own, hosting her own podcast, her own courses, all these things, because she took the time to set boundaries for herself and to set boundaries for her team. And to be honest, I'm sitting here like, did that just happen? Did I just get to interview Jenna Kutcher? And I did. And I'm so happy that we're able to bring this interview to you. So let's hop into this week's episode with the one and the only Jenna Kutcher.
It seems like there are new cameras and equipment coming out all of the time. It gets increasingly confusing and the FOMO is real. John and I have been preaching for years that the best way to try out new gear is to rent before you buy. There is only one place that we recommend when it comes to renting, and that is our friends over at Lens Rentals. Lens Rentals is the premier source for renting not only camera equipment, but lenses, drones, projectors, and more. Do you have a big project coming up and you really need to wow your couple? Wanting to test out the newest camera before you drop thousands on it? You need Lens Rentals. My favorite thing is that if I love something I rent, I can keep it. They apply a portion of the rental fee to the purchase price, and within a few simple clicks, the gear is mine. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/lensrentals and use promo code HTFW15 at checkout for 15% off of your order. Lens Rentals, the only place we recommend renting.
Well, the day has arrived. The one, the only Jenna Kutcher is on the How to Film Weddings podcast. Hi, Jenna. How are you today?
John, I have so much deep respect for you and what you do that I'm really honored to be here.
Oh, man, I could listen to that all day. Please tell me more.
Just play it on repeat.
Yeah, that's the whole podcast, everybody. No, I've been a big fan of you for a long time. Everybody knows who you are, and you're such an inspiration to the wedding community. I know you were a wedding photographer, all that stuff. A lot of big things going on for you. I've been watching from afar, been to DM friend with you for a little bit on Instagram, but where we're at with what we're seeing is there are a lot of people that are like really feeling burned out and overwhelmed. And most people just don't confront the fact that they're unhappy. And so I know you've got a book coming out. I know a lot going on. You're really great on this subject, but what would you say to somebody who finds themselves in this position? Like advice you would give for wedding filmmakers that are feeling overwhelmed, like they don't have their own time, things like that.
Yeah. So there's actually a story in the book that a lot of people in the photography, videography world will really love. And it's a story about how I was on this rooftop with a bunch of incredible leaders that a lot of people probably follow. And there was a photographer at the event. And no matter where I go, anytime I'm somewhere where there are people from the industry working, I just have such a deep respect because I know how hard that job is, right? I can still talk gear like the best of them. And I always just make an effort to speak to them because I just think a lot of people are so burnt out. I mean, it's a really challenging job that people don't understand. So there's a story about how I was talking to the photographer at the event and he goes, "You used to do this, right? How did you get out of this? How did you get from there to being the person drinking champagne and watching the sunset, not the person photographing it?" And I'm not saying this because I think a lot of people really come alive behind the lens. I know I still do to this day. It's just in a different way. It's with my kids in front of it. But I told him, I said, "You're not going to like the answer." I said, the only way that you can truly start to pivot out or to wind down or transition or even just slow down enough to catch your breath is that you have to value your time more than money. And there are certain things in my life, and there's these massive thresholds where I can see where, I went from 0 to 6 figures in 3 years as a wedding photographer. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, I was happier when I made 50K. Like I had more life. I had weekends. I had time with family and friends. And every time in my life where I've claimed back time as my currency, everything has shifted. I've felt creative again. I felt inspired again. I felt curious again. I felt childlike again. And so if you are in that place of burnout, I want for you to really look at where are there ways that you can either steal pockets of time or claim back your time or put up boundaries that protect your time so that you can be that artist that is what likely got you into what you're doing today.
Yeah, I love that. I think so many people get into their own job or whatever it is that, they've created their own job and then they don't set up any boundaries at all. Sure, I'll take that phone call at 8 o'clock or sure, I'll skip that family weekend, that thing. And they forget about what got them there in the first place. I feel like deep down people have goals, dreams, things that they're actually resisting, like that they know they want to do something. You were a wedding photographer. You had this idea, like maybe talk to me through a little bit of how you did make this transition from doing weddings. And I know now you've retired from shooting weddings and things like that, but you had this goal deep down that you wanted to do. How did you do that? Like, did you resist this dream? Like, what was that story?
Yeah, no, this is a great question, John. So if we look at my response to number one about the time thing, I think what's so fascinating is that so many photographers, videographers in that industry, we are multi-passionate, right? And so when we like pick a lane, that can be so hard for artists. Like there are so many ideas and things that we want to pursue. And for me, it felt like that. And I remember my early days as a wedding photographer, it was like, just be the best wedding photographer you can be. Like, that's it. Honor that, hone that skill. That's it. And I loved it. I really did love it. But I had other ideas. I had other things I wanted to do. And so when I claimed back my time, I started to just experiment. So first, I started to mentor other photographers. So I recognized like, hey, I knew things from my business education and the way that I was doing things that I could help other photographers. So I started just teaching. I had people come over. We lived in this tiny apartment at the time. We'd sit at this Target table and we would talk and I would just give them pricing guides and all these workflows and templates and all these things that had really systemized to save me my time. And then I realized I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. Maybe other people need this beyond just central Wisconsin. And so then I created my first course. From the course, I created the podcast. From the podcast, I began speaking. From the speaking, I started writing the book. And it all kind of like happened. But one thing that I think is really important and critical to note is that every time I've had a new idea, I didn't just abandon what had gotten me to the place that I found myself in. I started to figure out, how can I simplify? How can I hire help? Or how can I start to transition slowly? When I decided like, I think I'm going to be done shooting weddings, it was like a 3-year slowdown where I still shot weddings because that was working for me. That was paying the bills and that was necessary. But I think for so many service entrepreneurs, you recognize that like you can't trade time for money forever. There's going to come a day in your life where either life is going to knock you down or there's going to be a circumstance and you recognize that if I can't show up, I can't get paid. And if I can't get paid, that's a problem. And so for me, it was really connecting the dots of like, how do I still do what I love in a creative way, but how do I create a business that can run while I rest? And that was like the $1 million question, literally and figuratively.
John and I have to tell you about one of our favorite places to upload our wedding films, and that is Love Stories TV. Love Stories TV is one of the best free resources for wedding filmmakers. The best part is they are bringing the couples to us. All you have to do is upload your films and you are good to go. Upload unlimited wedding films to your completely free business page. Setup is easy and your films can be live in just minutes. Now is the perfect time to start uploading to Love Stories. Every video you upload is personally reviewed by the Love Stories team for potential social features. And if they choose one of your films, they'll pay you. They have paid wedding filmmakers over $15,000 in the past year just for features. To get all of the details, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/lovestoriestv. Start uploading and have your work viewed by the Loves. One question that we see wedding filmmakers asking, what is the best site for licensing music? We have one answer, MusicBed. I have been exclusively using MusicBed since 2016, and our films are better because of it. I have been told during consultations that couples love our films because they feel raw, authentic, and that the music wasn't cheesy. MusicBed has a roster of incredibly talented musicians, bands, and composers who pour their hearts into their work, and you can hear the difference. Find the perfect song with MusicBed's intuitive search features like genre, mood, beats per minute, and key, which is probably my favorite of the search parameters. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed to do what I did and take your wedding films to the next level. Use promo code HTFW22 at checkout to receive 1 month free with the purchase of any annual subscription. That's howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed.
No, that's awesome. And I think a lot of us, it's like the dream is, this audience filming weddings, like this is the dream. They're overwhelmed though, because they keep saying yes to certain things. Yeah, I'll film that even though I don't really connect with that couple, or yes, I'll take on that extra project. What advice would you have for people that are super excited to be filming weddings, but not sure how to like navigate their time, or what to say yes to, what to say no to?
Yeah. So I feel like at the beginning, all we are dying to have is like proof of concept, right? Like if someone is willing to pay our rates, it feels like we literally just made $1 million. Yeah. And I think that at some point there's this tipping point where it's like, I need to work with people I connect with and projects that I love. Because I know for me, when I first became a photographer, I was so on fire. I brought my camera everywhere. I slept with it on my nightstand. I couldn't put it down. I was obsessed with it. And once you start getting paid and once deadlines enter in your zone for whatever type of work you're doing, a lot of times as creatives, we're stifled. And so it's like, how can we create boundaries that protect our passion? And then how can we also remember to play with our passion? And I think a lot of times when you start getting paid to do something, you start to equate it with work. You stop bringing your camera along. You stop shooting just for fun. You stop being creative. You stop having these ideas. And so play is actually a really big piece in my life these days. I have 2 little ones, so I'm playing all the time, but I'm also recognizing that like in a society that is so obsessed with output and the finished product and efficiency and all of these things, it's important for creatives to keep experimenting and trying and doing things. So I would say like find a project that you do just for you that doesn't have any deadlines, has no paycheck attached to it. That's what my book was for me. When I finally decided to write it, I didn't have a book deal. I didn't do anything that way because I knew as a creative human being, I had to give myself the freedom to express in a way that wasn't judged, that wasn't constricted. And so I would say, get back to playing. And then the second piece is really figure out how is it that you can attract the right people, whether you have clients that you love and you ask them, is there anyone in your world that needs a videographer? Like, would you refer, or having a different like screening process so that you can really get a feel for what type of project you're stepping into? Because trust me, I've shot every type of wedding under the sun. And there are some that I left just feeling so on fire inspired. And there were some that I left just feeling so depleted and small.
Yeah, I love that. I think that so many people, and especially in the society, like where there's notifications on all the time, you're connected to your phone, there's no margin in people's lives. And people say, my best idea happens in the shower or when I'm driving. And it's like the only time they're not staring at their screen. And I've just realized that people don't have buffer time between anything. We're talking before we hit record is most people don't take time to transition, to pause, to like just enjoy or to, and so like, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people that are just overdoing it. And I remember listening on your podcast, I don't know, forever ago, it's like, I'm not going to be writing a book. I'm not doing a book. I keep getting asked about a book. And now here we are, you have this book. How are you really? I would love for you to kind of explain what this is, what this book is, who's it for, and why did you write it? Did it come out of having margin in your life? Is it set up because you had all these different boundaries? You finally were able to sit down and focus on this? I would just love to hear the story of how you actually decided to do this book.
John, I feel like Justin Bieber was right when he said never say never.
Preach.
Yes, the truth is like I used to resist change so much. I think so many of us do. Like change feels scary, especially when it's change in identity. When you are an entrepreneur, and specifically a creative entrepreneur, you are going to get people that push back or people that don't understand the dream. And I think I'd faced that for a long time. And when I was a photographer and then I moved into podcasting and all of these things, I was really in this business of like figuring out where time and money landed. For so much of my life, I was trading my time to get money, and then the scales tipped and I was willing to trade money to get back time. And it's funny because when I finally decided to do the book, I had one simple message delivered to me, and I want to deliver it to your audience because I just feel like it's something everyone needs to hear. It's a really long story. It's written in the book, but I went to get a massage in the heat of COVID. It was my 10-year anniversary. And this masseuse said to me, she said, "I'm a really intuitive person, and I just want to tell you something that came up for you." And I said, "Sure, tell me." And she goes, "There's something you need to do, and you know what it is. And you need to stop resisting it, and you need to go out and do it." And the second she said it, I was like, it's a book. And I went home that day from the massage, and Drew was like, "How was your massage?" And I was like, "I'm going to write a book." And he's like, "I am so confused how a masseuse or a massage therapist told you that you needed to write a book." And I was like, it was just like this tiny dose of permission that I'm like kicking myself that I was waiting for, because the second she said that, I knew it. And I think everyone listening, there's something you need to do and you're resisting it. So go out and do it. And when I decided to write the book, I did it entirely backwards intentionally because I knew my artist tendencies of feeling stifled when there was deadlines or paychecks. And I wanted to write words that tell, not words that sell. Mm-hmm. And so I did all of this from the privacy of our little cabin in northern Minnesota. I just integrated it into my life. I didn't like clear my calendar and abandon everything else. I just said, I'm going to find pockets of time to do this. And I'm going to do it even if nobody ever reads it, because it matters to me right now. And it was such a beautiful process, and it didn't hurt the way other authors had described it. It felt so natural and so exciting. And so the book is written in 3 parts. So it's who are you really, who you have and who has you. So community, and what you're going to do about it. And it's not this book about like how to be like Jenna. It's actually like the opposite of that. It's like how to come home to yourself, like how to find those pockets of time to really check in with yourself and say, do I like my life? Am I enjoying my life? Am I faking it? Do I need to change? Does this not feel like I thought it would? Does it look good, but it doesn't feel great? And it's really just this invitation to like live your truth. And I couldn't be more proud of it. I'm like so excited about it and energized. It's crazy.
I love it. I know it's coming out in the end of June, June 28th. It's almost here. Last question, just like, so, what does the day in the life of Jenna Kutcher look like now? You've set up these boundaries. You've set up these, you've got this podcast that's ranking top of the iTunes list. You've got millions of followers and things. And it's just like, what would you say to somebody that maybe is out there thinking, I want to do something similar, or, that, and just what's a day in the life look like to you?
It's so funny, John, because I'm like, one of the reasons why I never wanted to write a book is because I knew I was going to contradict myself, and I'm already contradicting myself because on the last pages, it's like, I am not someone with a morning routine, and I am in the busiest season of my career in the last 4 years. So we struggled to grow our family. And that was a really big piece of me stepping out of weddings, was because I was planning my biggest dream of being a mom around my work. And so I took the last 4 years to really just be home and be with the kids and grow our family. And that was the number one thing. And so now as I'm entering this busy season, I feel so energized and alive again. And so this morning I woke up at 5, not intentionally. My dog was barking at a deer in our backyard, and I was like, yep, I'm up. And I did yoga, and I sat in front of a red light and meditated, and all these things that I used to make fun of. But I've recognized that like, if I want to be vibrant and energized, like I have to pour into myself first. And I think as parents and as creatives and artists, it's like the hardest thing to do. And everyone always says it, but when you actually start to practice it, like I am more alive for my work and for my children than I've ever been. And so today alone, I have 10 interviews, and I'm so excited. Like, I just feel so blessed to be able to share platforms with people like you, and to be able to share my story and hopefully inspire people. And it's just all about impact, which is crazy. And it feels so good.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know how busy you are and intentional you are about your time. It's so good to have gotten to meet you. I know our audience is going to be so happy you were on the show.
Oh, well, and thank you. And John, thank you for your encouragement and like popping into the DMs and stuff. Like, I am the only person that responds on my channel. And so just, I see you, and I really honor the work that you're doing and the way that you're doing it. And my invitation for you is to celebrate all of that success with the people that you love the most, and to really stay close to the heartbeat of like why you started in the first place, for that freedom and for that time freedom. So I'm really honored.
I love it. I love that. I love it. And I'm so great to have gotten to have this few minutes with you. So thank you so much, Jenna.
Thank you, John.
Jenna, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to our audience, to share some of your wisdom. And we wish you nothing but the best when it comes to your book. If you're interested in the book, check out howareyourreallybook.com. We're going to put it in the show notes, of course. But this book will inspire you. This book has got a ton of stories about how Jenna has gone from where she was to where she is now, how she has really gotten to know herself over the past few years. So, Jenna, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast. To all the listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, we will see you. Are you looking for a better way to deliver your wedding films to your couples? Look no further. Our friends over at WedFlow provide the most flexible video delivery solution on the market. WedFlow is pay per project with no large upfront cost or commitment, and you can cancel anytime. Not only that, WedFlow offers a premium viewing experience for your couples, accessible on mobile, tablet, desktop, as well as their very own suite of TV apps. Each project comes with 10 years hosting and an experience for your clients that will blow them away. Stop delivering your films the old-fashioned way and give your couples something to rave about. Head on over to howtofilmweddings.com/WedFlow to check out WedFlow today.